One of the many great things about Bloom and Hue is the way that it plays with themes of identity. Who are you, really, in relation to others? How is identity constituted? What is lost when people change? And how is identity itself lost and regained? Toko Nanami loves Yu Koito. Yu can't love anybody but is willing to indulge Toko's feelings. Toko doesn't want the situation to change. Thus begins one of the first conflicts over relational identity in the series. Toko believes that the Yu she loves is the Yu that can't love her, and Yu believes that the only way that Toko will love her is if she can't love Toko back. To them, the words "I love you" are a chain. In their minds, a declaration of love is a kind of violence. For love to continue, the status quo must be maintained. This is, of course, an immature way to think about love. As they will later learn, love is not bound to a particular state of being at a particular time. But in this moment, ossifying and suffocating, the weight of Toko's love binds Yu, pins her down to a particular identity. When Yu does start to fall in love with Toko, she is afraid to voice her feelings. She can't voice her feelings. For in order for Toko to love Yu, Yu can't love Toko back. Faced with the potential loss of Toko's love, Yu is bound to one identity. The possibilities for growth are lost, and Yu must hide her feelings. There is a reason that Toko doesn't want Yu to love her. For Toko hates herself. She wants to become somebody else. She wants to become her dead sister. The shy, reticent Toko looked up to her older sister when her sister was student council president. But Toko's sister died in an accident while she was still the president. Traumatized from the loss, the young Toko made a resolution to become her sister, or at least become the sister that Toko knew. Her ultimate goal is to erase her identity and become her sister entirely, become the perfect student council president who everyone looks up to, bringing her sister back to life, in a sense. But if Toko disappears, then what becomes of the relationship she has cultivated with Yu? A third plot point. A play. In order to finish what her sister started, Toko needs to revive the tradition of putting on a play with the student council. She enlists Yu's friend Koyomi to write a new script. Koyomi, trying to create a character that would fit Toko, asks Toko's friends if there is anything under the surface, any hidden side of her. But despite her inquiries, she can find nothing. Toko seems like she is just surface. Frustrated by this, Koyomi comes up with an ingenious solution. Toko will play an amnesiac girl who has no memory of her past self. She has lost her whole identity. People who knew her in her past life visit her in the hospital, and she asks them what she is like. But they each give her different answers. Confused about who she really was, and wanting to return to her authentic self, the character must choose an identity to take on. Koyomi's play unintentionally touches deep into Toko's insecurities. Toko wants to become an empty vessel, wants to choose an identity and embody it wholly. If Toko is an actor, she wants to be the ultimate method actor and become her sister. Things become even more complicated for Toko when she meets her sister's old classmate and former member of the student council, who has come to coach their acting. He sees that Toko is hardworking and diligent, and offhandedly comments that in being so, she's nothing like her sister. Struck by hearing that, Toko later asks him for more details, and although Toko saw her sister as a model student who always worked hard and did her best, in reality, at school she was lazy and made all the other student council members help her with her work. Her sister was not as Toko saw her. Toko was trying to become somebody who didn't exist. Earlier, Toko said that she wanted to disappear and become her sister. Here, Toko does in a sense disappear, because she has become a person who didn't exist. The ground disappears from under her. She is faced with a crisis of identity. Mirroring the play, Toko's sister was different things to different people, and in her naivete, Toko tried to become her version of her sister. More like the play than ever, Toko's sense of self has been lost. Faced with the loss of identity, Toko doesn't know where to go from here. But there's one thing that distinguishes Toko from her version of her sister. Toko loves Yu. This is roughly where the anime ends. The manga resolves this plot beautifully, and although we do not have time today to explore it in depth, I would like to say a few more words on the characters as they are left at the end of the anime. Both Toko and Yu have a fixed conception of identity. They see identity as something unchanging, set in place. Thus, Toko and Yu believe that Toko's love is contingent on Yu being a certain way. and before learning otherwise, Toko believes that her sister was one kind of person who Toko wants to become. These fixed identities are unhealthy ones. They are chains that prevent one from becoming somebody else. They limit what you become, what you could be. They are a loss of possible futures. Toko is dealing with the loss of her sister in a very unhealthy way, contingent upon the loss of her own identity. But when her sister turns out to be more complex, Toko really is lost. Yu is lost too, as she starts to find that she does love Toko, but because of their immature conceptions of a love and identity, she can't love Toko. What these suffocating and fixed identities really are idealized identities. They are identities that pin a person down to a singular conception of who they are or who they could be. Toko idealizes her sister, only seeing one side of her, and makes that side of her sister Toko's raison d'etre. Toko also idealizes Yu, forcing her to be one thing. As a result, Yu and Toko also idealize parts of themselves. This is harmful to both Toko and Yu. What I think Bloom into Yu's exploration of identity really gets across is the singular violence of idealization. The violence that is wrought when you see identity as one-sided, fixed, and centered on your perception, your idealization, your image of who that person is. Yu and Toko are caught in a web of idealizations that harm both of them. They love each other, but Yu can't admit it. Toko has suddenly lost her direction in life. They need to see each other for who they really are, to love each other, and to break free of the surface images they have trapped each other in. I would like to make a longer piece exploring the issue of identity in Bloom into You someday, but for now, what I will leave off with is that the exploration of identity loss in Bloom into You tells us something important about selfhood, relationships, love, and idealization. If seeing a person as an image works a certain violence, both on yourself and others, then what Neo Nakatani seems to be saying is that love is needed to shatter these images and see people not as one-dimensional images, but as people, complex and multifaceted, always becoming, always blooming into themselves.